Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so today we've got a truly wild and intense journey ahead of us. We are going to objectively unpack a completely massive, hyperdense, and honestly, pretty disparate collection of documents. But they all share this one central, deeply chilling theme. They all allege the existence of these wide-reaching, systemic architectures of global control. The source material we're looking at today is all over the map. I mean, it ranges from these exhaustive lists of alleged international military interventions to incredibly intricate diagrams of medical monopolies, all the way to deeply paranoid street posters warning us about subliminal mind control. It's a lot to process. Now, right off the bat, our goal today is not to validate these politically charged claims, but we're not here to debunk them either. Instead, we're going to look at how these narratives are actually constructed, and we're going to examine the fascinating ways this information is presented to the reader. To help us actually navigate this chaotic and totally overwhelming volume of source material, we've structured this explainer around four main pillars. Pillar 1 is a ledger of interventions. Pillar 2 is mapping the healing web. Pillar 3 covers electromagnetic nervous system manipulation, and Pillar 4 looks at the neural hijacking posters. All right, let's dive right into Pillar 1, a ledger of interventions, looking at geopolitical and military control. Okay, so our very first pillar comes from a sprawling, thousands of words long document with the very subtle title, Be Afraid. It basically operates as this exhaustive ledger of alleged geopolitical and military control exerted by the United States over the last century or so. Now, maintaining a strict journalistic distance here, we are looking at this purely as an artifact, a piece of information that attempts to build this relentless narrative of historical and ongoing global intervention. It literally lists pages upon pages of military and CIA allegations. For instance, it claims involvement in the 1953 CIA coup in Iran to overthrow Mohammad Mossadegh. Then it jumps ahead to the 1981 through 1990 Nicaraguan Contra War, alleging things like covert funding for guerrilla wars and handing out psychological terror manuals. It covers the massive war on terror launched in 2001 across multiple countries, and it goes right up to the modern day, specifically pointing to a February 2022 raid in Syria that allegedly resulted in civilian casualties. The author's goal here is pretty clear. They want to just overwhelm you with a sheer volume of historical data points, painting this inescapable picture of geopolitical dominance. And to really anchor you in the weight of the document's claims, just consider this staggering statistic pulled right out of the text. According to the document's citing of the leaked Iraq war logs, out of 109,000 recorded deaths, an astonishing 66,081 were alleged to be civilians. Whether you agree with the document's overarching political framing or not, you gotta see how the author uses immense, jarring numbers exactly like this to cement a profound sense of institutional distrust in whoever's reading it. It basically sets the stage for the rest of their entire worldview. Moving right along, let's look at Pillar 2, Mapping the Healing Web, Biological and Medical Control. Now, as the source material pivots away from military interventions, it descends even deeper into the thematic rabbit hole. It shifts from the global stage right down to our own physical bodies. Now, what's really interesting about this macroscopic diagram, which is titled The Healing Web and pulled straight from our sources, is that it alleges our health is quite literally a battleground. Visually, it is incredibly intricate. It's almost dizzying to look at, right? It presents this highly organized matrix that claims to reveal the hidden controlling structures behind the modern healthcare industry. So, the document strictly divides the world into two competing pathways. On one side, we've got what the chart labels allopathic medicine. In the text, this is characterized as Western medicine or quote-unquote big pharma, and it's framed as being heavily built on treating symptoms rather than root causes, allegedly relying on synthetic drugs, toxic chemicals, and strict institutional control. Now, on the total opposite side is the holistic pathway. The source frames this as natural healing, treating the underlying cause, and relying on things like organic foods, earth medicines, and spiritual health. This is absolutely crucial because it fundamentally attempts to redefine the viewer's entire relationship with modern society. Just note how the document heavily biases the holistic side as the quote-unquote true path to vitality, while portraying the allopathic side as this manufactured mechanism of sickness. And when you zoom into the details of this alternative medical matrix, it reveals some profound complexity. It lists severe chronic conditions like Alzheimer's, diabetes, and heart disease, and it explicitly links them to modern environmental factors, things like fluoride and synthetic diets. Conversely, it offers up a web of alternative treatments, colloidal silver, essential oils, frequency therapies. the chart essentially acts as a visual manifesto. It's attempting to completely re-educate the viewer on how the human body interacts with the modern world, essentially suggesting that chronic illness isn't an accident, but rather a profitable design. Let's move into our third pillar. Pillar 3, electromagnetic nervous system manipulation, psychological control. Okay, so having explored the physical world, the source material now takes a very sharp, fascinating turn into highly abstract, paranoid technological claims. The source documents actually include an abstract from a real U.S. patent, patent 6506148, filed by an inventor named Hendrikus G. Luce. The text explicitly states, and I quote, "It is therefore possible to manipulate the nervous system of a subject by pulsing images displayed on a nearby computer monitor or TV set." It even goes on to mention specific frequencies, like near 1/2 Hz or 2.4 Hz, to excite a sensory resonance. The source material basically seizes on this real patent to allege that subliminal electromagnetic modulations are actively being used through our everyday screens right now to manipulate our senses and control human thought. You can see how it takes a massive leap from a theoretical technical patent to a full-blown global conspiracy of mind control. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that technological paranoia manifests visually in the documents. On the left, we've got the Frankenstein radio controls text. It's this dense, chaotic, typewritten rant warning of a worldwide communist gangster computer god that uses eyesight television cameras to broadcast, quote, brain thoughts. Then, on the right, you have this bizarre, primitive-looking sketch of a machine literally emitting invisible rays to manipulate a person's body and mind. These artifacts show two totally different iterations of the exact same deep-seated fear: the terrifying idea that our minds are being invisibly infiltrated by distant technology. And that brings us to our final descent, Pillar 4, the neural hijacking posters, abstract warnings. We are now heading into the most esoteric territory of this entire explainer. Here, the political stuff and the medical stuff completely fall away, and the claims become entirely psychological. They rely heavily on overwhelming visual evidence found in these cryptic street warnings. To even understand these warnings, we kind of have to decode their very specific, almost science fiction-like language. The posters frequently use the term neural defenestration, which implies a forcible removal or a subconscious erasure of your own mind. They also constantly reference layer theory, which is this concept alleging multidimensional mind manipulation and cognitive displacement. According to the text, our reality is basically a layered construct meant to pacify us, and apparently just reading these cryptic posters supposedly breaks that programming. Just notice the dense, hyper-realistic aesthetic of this actual wall poster photographed in a grimy urban environment. It features these hypnotic, circular diagrams and blocks of incredibly tightly packed text detailing this neural hijacking. It explicitly claims that by simply scanning the visual code or even just reading the text, you are unknowingly entering into a contractual state, literally forfeiting your soul and mind to absolute censorship. It functions as this overwhelming ambient warning to the public. It's practically designed to induce the state of paranoia and hyper-awareness just by you encountering it on a random brick wall. Let's move to our final artifact and see how this all builds up. This one is titled Insignificance. It is a raw, dizzying visual overload, a hyperdense typographic manifesto all about human obsolescence. The text is packed so tightly together that it almost becomes an unreadable physical texture. It mixes anatomical drawings of lungs, architectural blueprints, and these endless, spiraling rants about humanity being reduced to dust by corporate rulers and biological censors. The sheer amount of effort required to create something this visually chaotic is, honestly, absolutely staggering. So, what does this all mean? That brings us to the core mystery of this entire collection of source documents. Does the sheer volume, the meticulous cross-referencing, and the chaotic density of this information actually reveal hidden suppressed truths about how the world is really run? Or is the overwhelming cognitive overload, the extreme paranoia, and the confusing density itself the true mechanism of control? Think about it. If you're entirely paralyzed by a maze of endless, terrifying information, maybe you don't need to be controlled by anything else at all. Think about that as you process everything we've unpacked today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning what you see.